Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. We've got a lot to cover here. The Midwest has seen quite the day here. We've got a big event here in the Severe Weather Department moving across the Midwest and entering into the Great Lakes area. I want to show you what that looks like now in our app. This is live from the My Radar Weather app with our winds layer on. And if we zoom in closer here and take a look at this line of storms, you can see things getting pretty busy here, anywhere from the Great Lakes between the two peninsulas of Michigan, moving down through into parts of Illinois, now entering Indiana. And this spans all the way back through parts of Missouri into Kansas, where most of that storm activity is exiting now southward into Oklahoma, and soon to be approaching parts of Arkansas heading into this evening. This is a big storm event that's ahead of a cold front, something we talked about in the fast forecast, but it looks like from some of the earlier reports, the storm has a history of producing some very impressive and intense damage from strong wind gusts. Like I said, this is something that once the National Weather Service offices survey all of this will likely be chalked up to a derecho, which is a major wind event. Some of the winds we've seen reported earlier on have been in the neighborhood of 70 to even as much as 100 miles per hour at first estimate. A couple reports of wind gusts of 100 miles per hour. And for those who aren't familiar with some kind of scale of this, when you compare that, Category 2 hurricanes are 95 miles per hour plus. So this is some pretty intense data that we're getting out of this storm here. I want to take you now to our radar, showing you the storms over the past several hours as they've been quickly moving across from the middle of the plains, heading now into soon to be approaching the Ohio River Valley here. And they're moving at about 60 to 70 miles per hour. The storm system itself moving at 70 miles per hour, which is part of the reason why we've seen such strong winds reported with this. I want to take you in a little bit closer here. This is the real-time radar now, and we'll zoom in a little bit closer so you can see what some of these storms are looking like into parts of Indiana and into the lower peninsula of Michigan. Illinois, Chicago just got a taste of this storm pushing through the area. So you'll see in these filled in spots of orange here, these are active severe thunderstorm warnings that span anywhere from Indiana back into parts of Illinois, southwest of Champaign, out to near St. Louis. And many of these are running for the next hour or so. You'll notice these outlines of orange here, these larger boxes. These are severe thunderstorm watches issued, and those are issued from the Storm Prediction Center. Those, many of them go until about 4 a.m. into or Tuesday now. So we'll be dealing with this system heading on into the later hours tonight, but I guess if we're finding some good news in this, it's that the storm system is moving very quickly. So we'll continue to see it progressing southeastward. So the storms, I want to show you a little bit further north because we are seeing storm activity enter the lower peninsula of Michigan, east or west of Lansing and Kalamazoo. So this will take you, folks in Milwaukee just got this, a few special marine warnings issued for Lake Michigan. And these are spreading eastward, heading into the lower mid. So places like Detroit, you'll see these storms here probably heading into the next hour and a half or so, headed your way. And we've seen the intensity back down just a bit with these storms, but we're likely to see these storms continue to pack a punch into the later evening hours here. And we'll take you a little bit further down this line of storms, heading back towards the middle of the plains. Get you now to parts of Missouri. Like I said, St. Louis, you're about to see this storm, severe thunderstorm warning in effect north of the metro area to include that. And so these storms are continuing to move southeastward throughout parts of eastern Missouri here. Quad Cities National Weather Service shared with us some impressive video that we'll show you now. This was a couple hours ago, taken outside their office where they were recording winds of 75 miles per hour while this was being filmed. So it's pretty impressive. You can see the wind is blowing, the trees not having a good time with this there, and rainfall coming down. But really the main mode of severe weather with this is that wind factor. Like I said, they clocked about 75 miles per hour with this storm. We've had plenty of reports, some big rigs toppled over on the interstates there, and some structural damage to buildings too, in places where we've had reports of possible 80 to 100 mile per hour wind gusts. Something else that was interesting, this National Weather Service office noted that on radar, scanning about 1 kilometer above the ground, wind reports of 130 miles per hour. So that's slower at the surface, but still very strong. 1 kilometer is only about 1,600 feet. So this happens when these storms quickly develop. You get cooler air rushing out from these storms, rapidly developing and racing forward, and then they just, as that cold air quite literally falls out of the cloud and ahead of it, we get somewhat of a gust front on a much larger scale. And that's what's made this wind threat so damaging for folks here across the plains. So this will continue into the next several hours as this line continues to push further to the southeast, take you a little bit further back into parts of Kansas, where we've had these storms not quite as strong in intensity, but now we've got isolated cells moving into the border there with Oklahoma. Like I said, eventually we'll be pushing into parts of Arkansas, Fort Smith, Fayetteville. You could see some of these thunderstorms developing into the next several hours. Not likely to be as intense as those further to the northeast, moving through Illinois and into Michigan. But again, we're still keeping an eye on this area. I'll take you now to the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for today. This is current, and we talked about this in the fast forecast last night, where we had our eyes on Missouri and parts of Kansas for this line of storms moving through. And so they've updated this recently over the past couple of hours. The area you see there in yellow, a slight risk for severe weather, spans all the way back to the panhandle of Texas. And then as we zoom in a little bit closer, you'll notice oranges around parts of Illinois into Wisconsin, the LP of Michigan and Indiana, but centered right around it, Chicago metro area just got this, Gary, Indiana, a moderate risk of severe weather, because that's where the storms, if you noticed on radar there a moment ago, beginning to curl back a bit. So severe thunderstorms have been recorded and reported here in this area. So any of these brightly shaded colors likely to see the severe weather persisting into the next couple of hours until it clears. Remember to have your MyRadar app handy so that you can stay ahead of these storms and seek shelter if they're heading your way. They will be continuing on here into the next couple of hours. Something else I want to show you here was our visible satellite imagery, where we usually like to show this satellite because it does a really good job of showing the texture of these clouds. And this is what it's looked like over the past 6 hours, quickly pushing to the east. And you'll notice on the top part of your screen, we've got some texture that shows up once this storm begins to move past Lake Michigan there in Chicago. Very obvious curved bow-like feature moving ahead of it, and that's because those winds just press outwards, but it does a good job of showing you the texture of the clouds and some of those overshooting tops with the stronger thunderstorms on the front leading edge of that line. So this is something that we're monitoring here. Just wanted to bring you the latest update on what's going on with these storms and let you know. Have your MyRadar app handy. If you've got your location on, it'll give you tailored information within a kilometer resolution of where you are. So make sure you're staying weather aware if you're here in the Midwest. Like I said, these storms are continuing to push to the southeast and will progress eastward into the overnight hours here, eventually lightening up as we head into your Tuesday. We'll have more on what you can expect for tomorrow and going into the rest of the week in your fast forecast coming out early tomorrow morning. So make sure you're staying with us here at MyRadar. Until then, I hope you guys have a great night. Stay safe.